The final round of the Travelers Championship was supposed to be the crowning moment of an incredible week of golf. Scottie Scheffler versus Viktor Hovland, two of the best players on the planet, battling it out for the trophy. Thousands of fans packed around the 18th green, ready to witness a dramatic finish. CBS was broadcasting every shot to millions of viewers around the world. And then everything stopped. In a moment that stunned everyone watching, the final round was suddenly suspended. Not for rain, not for lightning, but for something no one saw coming. The TPC River Highlands, one of the most pristine venues on the PGA Tour, became the center of chaos. Fans were left in shock, players were forced off the course, and the tournament that had delivered incredible drama all week took a turn that no one expected. This is the story of how a suspension at the Travelers Championship became the most talked about moment in golf. And it's not the first time this tournament has seen something like this happen. The Travelers Championship had everything a golf fan could ask for. The leaders were locked in a thrilling battle that had fans on the edge of their seats. Viktor Hovland, the Norwegian sensation chasing his first win since last year's Valspar Championship, had clawed his way to the top of the leaderboard. At 20 under par, through 54 holes, Hovland held a narrow one-shot lead over the world number one, Scottie Scheffler. It had been a masterclass in scoring at TPC River Highlands. Scheffler had fired a remarkable 10 under par 60 in the second round, missing a 59 by mere inches on the 18th green. It was the kind of performance that reminded everyone why he's the best player in the world. But Hovland wasn't backing down. In the third round, the two men traded blows like heavyweight champions. Every birdie was answered. Every mistake was punished. The back nine was a roller coaster of emotion. Scheffler took the lead with a tap-in birdie at the 14th, but Hovland kept applying pressure. Then came the 18th hole, a two-shot swing that changed everything. Hovland sank a 6-foot birdie putt, while Scheffler missed his par putt from just inside 9 feet. Hovland walked off the 18th green with a one-shot lead and the momentum heading into the final round. The stage was set for a Sunday showdown. Scheffler, seeking his 21st PGA Tour title, was chasing his first win since the season opener in the California desert. He had been knocking on the door all season, with runner-up finishes at the Masters, Heritage, and Doral. This was his chance to finally break through. Hovland, on the other hand, was looking to cement his status as one of the game's elite. He had the game, the confidence, and the belief. The Travelers Championship was his to lose. Behind them, a star-studded leaderboard waited to pounce. Patrick Cantlay and Akshay Bhatia were tied for third at 15 under. Shane Lowry, fresh off his runner-up finish at the U.S. Open, was lurking at 13 under alongside Matt Fitzpatrick, Wyndham Clark, and Ben Griffin. Any one of them could make a run if the leader stumbled. The atmosphere at TPC River Highlands was electric. Fans had shown up in record numbers, and the weather had been perfect all week. This was supposed to be a classic finish. But no one knew that the most dramatic moment of the tournament was about to come from off the course. How could a tournament that had everything going for it suddenly come to a halt? What happened on that final round that would leave fans stunned and the golf world divided? Just when the final round seemed to be building toward an unforgettable climax, everything changed. The 18th green, the very stage where champions are crowned, became the center of a disruption that no one could have predicted. In a scene that would remind many of the chaos at the 2024 Travelers Championship, protesters stormed the 18th green during the final round. They weren't just shouting slogans. They were spraying paint. The pristine green that had been meticulously maintained for the tournament was suddenly covered in messages that had nothing to do with golf. The timing couldn't have been worse. The final group was approaching the 18th hole. Scottie Scheffler and Viktor Hovland were locked in a battle for the ages. The fans were packed around the green, waiting for a dramatic finish. And then, chaos erupted. Security personnel rushed onto the green to restrain the protesters. Police converged from multiple directions. The broadcast was forced to cut away. Players on the course were stunned. What was supposed to be the crowning moment of a thrilling tournament had become a scene of pandemonium. The green was covered in paint and powder. The original pin area had been chewed up by the scuffle. For a long moment, no one knew what would happen. Would they call the tournament? Would they try to clean the green and continue? Could the players even finish? Tournament officials faced an impossible decision. The 18th green was unplayable. The fans were in shock. The players were frustrated. And millions of viewers around the world were watching, wondering what would happen next. The situation was eerily similar to what happened just 2 years prior. In 2024, 6 members of the Extinction Rebellion climate group sprinted onto the 18th green wearing shirts that read, "No golf on a dead planet." They set off red and white powder smoke devices, forcing officials to make an unprecedented decision. Instead of attempting a quick repair, PGA Tour officials decided to cut a new hole in an undamaged section of the green. That decision had created a first-of-its-kind finish by moving the hole during the tournament. But now, in 2026, the scenario seemed just as chaotic. Fans who had paid thousands of dollars and traveled from all over the country to watch the final round were left in disbelief. The tournament that had been running so smoothly just hours earlier was now at a standstill. But would history repeat itself? Could the officials pull off another miracle finish? Or was this suspension too much to overcome? Social media erupted the moment the suspension was announced. Fans who had been glued to their screens were furious. Many had traveled from across the country to watch the final round in person. Some had paid thousands of dollars for tickets and accommodations. Others had been following the tournament from home, waiting for the dramatic conclusion that never came. The comments were brutal. Just when the final round was getting good, this happens. One fan posted on social media. Another wrote, "I've been following every shot this week, and this is how it ends?" Unbelievable. Online forums and discussion boards were flooded with complaints. Fans accused tournament officials of not doing enough to prevent the disruption. Some demanded refunds. Others called the situation embarrassing for the PGA Tour. The atmosphere at the course was even more tense. Spectators who had been cheering for their favorite players now found themselves being escorted off the grounds. The energy that had been so electric just hours earlier turned into frustration and anger. The tournament was going so well. One fan told a local news crew. The weather was perfect, the golf was incredible, and then this had to happen. "It's just sad." Another fan added, "I brought my son to watch his first PGA Tour event. He was so excited to see Scheffler and Hovland battle it out. Now he's just confused about what happened." Meanwhile, players took to social media to express their frustration. One veteran tour player simply wrote, "Unbelievable." Another tweeted, "Can't believe this is how it ends." The sentiment was clear. Everyone who had invested in this tournament, players, fans, organizers, sponsors, felt cheated. Amidst the chaos, the PGA Tour made an official announcement. The final round had been suspended indefinitely due to the unplayable conditions on the 18th green. Maintenance crews were working to repair the damage, but there was no guarantee that play could resume on Sunday. The announcement sent shockwaves through the golf world. Media outlets scrambled for information. Reporters were pressed for updates. Fans were left in limbo, refreshing their feeds for any sign of news. Would they cut a new hole again like in 2024? Or would this suspension lead to a completely different outcome? What would this mean for Scheffler, Hovland, and the rest of the field? This wasn't the first time the Travelers' Championship had been disrupted by protesters. The 2024 edition had created a first-of-its-kind finish when climate protesters forced officials to cut a brand-new hole to end the tournament. In 2024, 6 members of the Extinction Rebellion climate group sprinted onto the 18th green wearing shirts that read, "No golf on a dead planet." They set off red and white powder from smoke devices, forcing officials to make an unprecedented decision. The interruption came at the worst possible moment for the PGA Tour. The fans were packed around the 18th, and everyone was watching on CBS. Scottie Scheffler, Tom Kim, and Akshay Bhatia were playing the final hole when the green suddenly became unplayable because of the powder and the scuffle, which chewed up the original pin area. Instead of attempting a quick repair, PGA Tour officials decided to cut a new hole in an undamaged section of the green. The change ensured that any playoff would be fair and created a first-of-its-kind finish by moving the hole during the tournament. After maintenance crews cleared the green, play resumed. Kim rolled in a birdie putt to force a sudden death playoff with Scheffler, and the world number 1 answered by making par on the first extra hole to secure his 6th PGA Tour title of 2024. Fast forward to 2026, and the script had been flipped. This time, it wasn't about moving the hole. The green had been damaged to the point where it was questionable whether play could even continue. The damage from the spray paint had created chaos on the green, making it look like a crime scene rather than a golf course. For many, the question wasn't just about how to fix the green. It was about why this keeps happening. Why is the Travelers Championship, a tournament with such a rich history, becoming a target for protests? And what does it say about the state of professional golf when even the final round of a prestigious event isn't safe from disruption? The 2024 incident had been a warning sign, but just 2 years later, the same thing had happened again. This time, the disruption was even more severe. Fans have been left in the dark for hours, wondering whether the tournament would ever be completed. The PGA Tour had to act quickly, but the damage had already been done. The news spread like wildfire. Headlines screamed the news. Travelers Championship stuns fans as final round is suddenly suspended. Viewers who had tuned in expecting a thrilling conclusion were instead treated to the scene of a golf course under siege. The immediate aftermath of the suspension was chaos. Officials had to decide how to handle the situation. Do they attempt to clean the green? Do they move the hole like they did in 2024? Or do they declare the tournament over based on the current leaderboard? According to reports, the PGA Tour was exploring all options. Maintenance crews were working to repair the damage, but there were no guarantees that play could resume on Sunday. The green had been covered in paint and powder, and the original pin area had been chewed up by the scuffle. In 2024, officials had opted to cut a new hole in an undamaged section of the green. That solution had worked and allowed the tournament to finish. But this time, the damage was more extensive. The question was whether the green could be made playable within a reasonable time frame. The players themselves were split. Some wanted to finish the tournament, arguing that the field deserved a proper conclusion. Others were frustrated and just wanted to move on. Hovland, the leader, had stated after the 3rd round, "We were both in perfect position there in the fairway. It's a tough pin." He was ready to close it out. Scheffler was determined to chase his first win since the season opener. The PGA Tour was in a difficult position. They had to balance the interests of the players, the fans, and the sponsors. The Travelers Championship is one of the PGA Tour's signature events, and they couldn't afford a public relations disaster. Behind the scenes, officials were scrambling to come up with a solution. One option was to suspend play until Monday, a move that would have significant logistical challenges. Another option was to declare the tournament over based on the current leaderboard, awarding Hovland the victory. But that would have angered Scheffler and the rest of the field. Ultimately, the tour decided to resume play on Monday morning, giving maintenance crews the rest of the day to restore the green. It wasn't the ideal solution, but it was the only one that could provide a fair conclusion to the tournament. But would this decision satisfy anyone, or would it only add to the controversy and frustration? Even after the suspension was resolved, the damage had been done. The 2026 Travelers Championship will forever be remembered as the tournament that was suspended in chaos. The incredible golf that had been played all week, the 60s, the birdies, the dramatic lead changes, was overshadowed by the scene of protesters spray painting the 18th green. For the players, it was a bitter pill to swallow. Hovland, who had played some of the best golf of his career, found himself robbed of a traditional victory celebration. Scheffler, who had missed a 59 by inches, was denied the chance to chase history. And the rest of the field, including Cantlay, Badia, Lowry, and Fitzpatrick, were left with an incomplete tournament that didn't feel like a proper conclusion. Fans were equally disappointed. Many had invested time and money to watch the final round, only to be left in the dark. Social media was flooded with complaints. Some called for stricter security measures at future events. Others demanded refunds. The sentiment was clear. This was not how the tournament should have ended. But the controversy also raised bigger questions. Why do protesters continue to target the Travelers Championship? Is the PGA Tour doing enough to protect its events? And what does this say about the broader tensions between sports and activism? In 2024, the Extinction Rebellion group had sent a clear message: no golf on a dead planet. In 2026, the protesters had used spray paint on the green, an act that went far beyond a simple demonstration. It was a direct attack on the tournament itself. For the golf world, the Travelers Championship has become a symbol of something else entirely. It's a reminder that sports are not immune to the broader social and political issues of the day, and that even the most prestigious events can be disrupted by forces beyond anyone's control. The PGA Tour has promised to take steps to prevent future incidents. But after 2 disruptions in 3 years, fans are skeptical. Will the tour beef up security at the Travelers Championship? Will they ban certain groups from attending? Or will they simply accept that this is the new reality? The answers to those questions will shape the future of the Travelers Championship. But one thing is certain: the 2026 edition will go down in history as one of the most controversial tournaments ever played. Not because of the golf, but because of what happened off the course. The Travelers Championship was supposed to be a celebration of golf. Instead, it became a scene of chaos. The suspension of the final round stunned fans, frustrated players, and raised serious questions about the future of the tournament. Viktor Hovland and Scottie Scheffler delivered one of the most thrilling battles of the season. The leaderboard was packed with stars. The atmosphere was electric. And then, in a flash, it all came crashing down. The protesters who stormed the 18th green may have had a message, but their actions only succeeded in ruining a great tournament. The fans who came to watch golf were left with nothing but frustration. The players who had given everything to compete were left with a bitter taste in their mouths. Now, the questions remain. Will the PGA Tour take action to prevent future disruptions? Can the Travelers Championship ever return to being a purely golf event? And what does this controversy say about the broader state of professional sports? One thing is certain: the 2026 Travelers Championship will never be forgotten. Not for the golf, but for the chaos. And that's the most tragic part of all.